I'd like to say good day to everyone. I'm going to make statements from a prepared statement sheet, and then I'll take a few questions from the media afterwards. With the new Black Panther Party's $10,000 bounty and a call for more than 5,000 volunteers to hunt down George Zimmerman and bring him to justice, I feel compelled to say enough is enough. The death of Trayvon Martin is a tragedy that some are using to fan the flames of racial division and hatred. This is unacceptable regardless of the community from which this rhetoric is spewed. As a father of 5 and grandfather of 3, I can only imagine the pain and suffering that Trayvon's family and friends are going through at this time. Yet despite their hurtful ordeal, there are those who are looking to capitalize on this devastating incident for the express purpose of furthering their objectives of pitting us versus them, pitting that mentality into our society and driving a deeper wedge of division amongst various racial, sociological, and socioeconomic groups. Such irresponsible behavior should never be encouraged. When we let our actions and emotions govern our actions, there is often a rush to judgment that is wrong far more than it is right. If we remember the 2006 Duke lacrosse team incident in which a team was falsely accused of gang raping a black stripper, we should be shocked and appalled. What may have escaped our memory is that 88 professors at Duke University signed a letter denouncing the behavior of the privileged white young men against a helpless black woman. In the end, those players whose lives were turned upside down were not only found not guilty, they were found to be innocent of all charges. We should also remember President Obama's rush to judgment in the Professor Gates incident, in which he commented that the police acted stupidly before the investigation into the case was finalized. Here again, when we offer speculation and comment prior to letting our justice system run its course, we often impugn the character and motives of others without the facts. Again, this must stop. In my quest to be the representative for North Carolina's 13th Congressional District, my main slogan is from the people, for the people. With that as my main objective, I feel compelled to address the hurtful, irresponsible, and seemingly incessant rhetoric that prevailed in the Trayvon Martin incident. If an elected official is truly from the people and for the people, he or she must not give preferential treatment towards or show any form of bias against any constituent. This means not aligning with one group while seemingly castigating another. We are not hyphenated Americans. We are Americans. Elected officials and community leaders have an obligation to maintain civility and display principled action in word and deed. They should never use inflammatory rhetoric to divide. Only then do they live up to the standard and ideal of public servant. With that, I'll take a few questions.
So, Mr. Randall, there's a rally, a social justice rally on behalf of the Martin family that's going to take place from 4 to 6 in central Raleigh, just a little while. A lot of college kids we're anticipating will show up, sponsored by the Black Student Law Association. What are your thoughts that this incident in Florida is spawning national rallies, national movements, some people have said, and now it's hitting home here in Raleigh?
Well, you know, I look at it as journalistic malpractice when journalists and television media fan the flames with half-truths, innuendo, and showing a narrow window of what actually has taken place. I believe that the people that are rallying later today in Raleigh may have a genuine and sincere motive for going out there and showing support for Trayvon Martin's family. I don't see anything wrong with this. Neither do I see any anything wrong with someone being incensed and outraged if they feel that this was a terrible injustice where this young man was murdered in cold blood, as the byline and as the narrative goes with some is painted in the media. But if you look at the situation, just like with the Duke lacrosse case, until the facts emerge, until a full investigation is done, I think we should not encourage people to rush to judgment. Now, if people are passionate, they have every right to express themselves with freedom of speech. And there is nothing that prevents someone from expressing freedom of speech, even if we don't agree with it, and even if we know that their premise is false. So I uphold and I support their right to rally later on today in Raleigh. But as far as inciting some action on the part of, vigilantes and getting people to apprehend, Mr. Zimmerman by calling for a bounty on his head and this, that, and the other, that is reckless and irresponsible. We have law enforcement officials that could easily bring Mr. Zimmerman into custody if that is so if it's deemed so necessary by our law system.
You said this was an issue of leadership. Are you being critical of President Obama for his personalized comments to the family?
Well, I know that President Obama made a statement along the line, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. To me, I really wonder why he would choose an incident like this to interject himself into this situation. Because if you may not have known, some people may not realize it, but there was a white boy that was doused with gasoline in February and set on fire by, I believe, allegedly by 2 black youth. But yet no hate crime was called in that, and no one in the civil rights movement that I'm aware of rushed to defend the young man that was the victim or speak in outrage against the actions that were taken by the 2 that allegedly burned him. So when you look at President Obama interjecting himself in a situation like this, I think back to the situation with Professor Gates, where he made the statements that the police acted stupidly. And I think that as President of the United States, until all of the facts emerge, you do not have to interject yourself in there and incite the passions of people needlessly. He may have a motive for doing that, but if you're going to do it, don't do it just selectively to where you're perceived to only bring forth ideas like that when there's a black youth. It should be brought forth regardless of the gender, ethnicity, and whatever of a person. Tragic actions should be met with compassion, and anyone who violates the law with respect to that should be brought to justice without exception.
What message do you have for Trayvon's family?
Having been raised in the inner city, I know of many families that have been decimated by murder. And my message to Trayvon's family and friends is that my heart goes out to them. It's not a matter of whether or not he was guilty of something, because at this point in time, when you're talking about families that are impacted, when someone in your a blood relative or a close friend is murdered, that hits you closely, regardless of whether they are a perpetrator of wrong or not. So it is a tragedy. It's a tragedy, and my statement is, my heart goes out to that family. I think that whatever pans out with respect to the case, whether or not Mr. Zimmerman was guilty of doing something wrong or taking vigilante action, or if it pans out that Trayvon actually attacked him or what have you, however it pans out, that's separate and apart from my giving a statement of empathy to the family. And I'll add one other thing. After being raised in the inner city, I know firsthand about murder, and murder that occurred pretty much on a daily basis. In New Orleans, where I was raised, I remember that they kept a running tally, and there were many years that there were over 365 murders in the city. It had one of the highest, if not the highest, murder rate. And it hit close to home in one particular year where a former girlfriend was murdered by her boyfriend. And I knew the family, and I spoke to the mother. And all I can say is when that hits you, you don't want to intellectualize it. You don't want to start being judgmental. It's really a tragedy all around. And we need to let the justice system play out the way it's supposed to. Remember the mistakes of the past with the things that I cited earlier when we rushed to judgment. And just pray for the family and those impacted.
Is the justice system working in this case? It took protests and rallies and a lot of consternation to even get a grand jury investigation. And now the federal government's looking into it, but it took some time. The justice system didn't produce anything in this case initially.
You have to realize that those that are closer to the case would have more knowledge of this, and then you have someone such as myself who's running for public office. A temptation would be to give you an opinion that would zero in on this. I'm not equipped with enough facts to know exactly, what should have been done or what wasn't done. So I would be ill-advised to comment on that. I would just say that now that we're at the point to where they're doing active investigation, it is my understanding that there is nothing being done to impede the progress of an active investigation. As a matter of fact, I was told secondhand, I cannot confirm this firsthand, but someone that I trust has told me that they saw a press conference where the leader of the NAACP actually commended the officials down in Florida for the manner in which they're dealing with this situation now that it is accelerated as far as national interest.
North Carolina has a castle doctrine, which is a little different from Florida's law, but also gives people the right to stand their ground, so to speak. How do you feel about this law? Is it something that we need to re-look at, in light of the situation down in Florida?
The right to protect your home is something that is sacred. And I'm sorry, if somebody comes into my home as an intruder, they're likely to meet with my friends Smith and Wesson without remorse and without apology. All I can say is if a citizen operates and takes action within the confines of the law and does not go beyond that, they're not to be persecuted for. I'm a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment.
What about in this case where the gentleman followed him around the neighborhood a little bit? It was certainly not inside his home where this incident took place.
That's speculation as far as I'm concerned. I don't have firsthand knowledge of that. The investigation is actively being delved into, and well, let's see how it sorts out.
You're not interested in speculating, but you call a press conference here to weigh in on a Florida case. What effect, if any, do you think your statement may have on the events down in Florida?
I believe that the silence is deafening with respect to certain individuals who are entrusted with positions of leadership. That's the main reason why I'm stepping forth today to weigh in on this situation. When you have individuals who make statements that are inflammatory, who call for a civilian, force of 5,000 or more to be bounty hunters for an individual, putting a $10,000 reward, and from what I understand, they're looking to get that reward up to $1 million. And when you incite the passions of individuals like this, instead of remembering that back in 2006, less than 50 miles to the west of here, those young men at Duke, somebody said, oh, rich white boys, who cares about rich white boys? I care about them. Because just like Martin Luther King Jr. said, injustice that occurs anywhere is something, and I'm paraphrasing, will be something that is going to threaten our justice everywhere. And so we better be concerned whenever an injustice occurs. So you have the young men at Duke They were told that they were, publicly people were saying that they were guilty, 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 and this, that, and the other, irresponsibly, and no one was standing up to quell that. And right now you have something where the passions of the community and these rallies are rising up across the nation. And so I want to go on record as saying that we need to have a measured response, make sure we articulate the concern and empathy for the family, or really the families affected, but also say that let's have a correct response to this and not act irresponsibly with the way things are going.